guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today's video is featuring a new stamp set from myself and Picket Fence. This is called Wild and Wonderful Cosmos. It's got a couple of different kind of clusters in there and some sentiments. This does not have coordinating dies. It was originally supposed to, but it just didn't work out. If you have been following my videos, you know that my mama has been sick, so creativity has been challenging for me lately. And so the last video that we did, we talked about kind of like a really easy go-to recipe for no matter what kind of products you have that will always be successful. And this is, we're going to do a technique which I do find to pretty much always be very striking no matter what the image is. Now, with that said, I will put the caveat in that I typically do use a lot of florals. So what we're doing here is we're kind of creating our own pattern paper. This is an A2 size, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of watercolor cardstock. And I'm using all of these images that are in the set to create my own pattern paper. It's important when you're doing that to make sure you fill up the middle first and then kind of work out to the edges. So that way you don't find yourself with an empty middle and a stamp that won't fit in there because you stamped all the edges first. So here you want to make sure that you are using an ink that is waterproof, because that's part of the technique that we're going to be doing today. I am using Picket Fence's Intense Black ink, and I had no issues. So basically just going through, stamping out, to cover the whole piece of paper. And I do like stamping mine twice. So you may see kind of like how the camera cuts and all of a sudden it looks darker. It's because I stamped it twice. It's because I stamped it twice, but I cut it out. So, once we do that, we're going to move on. Now, I used Distress inks because that is what I prefer. You can use oxides. You can use basically any kind of ink or watercolor, like genuine watercolor, Daniel Smith, or if you have Altenews like tube watercolors, any of those, any kind of ink that will react with water, you can use for this technique. Because, I mean, truly, it's really simple. Kind of another no-fail situation, as long as you just pay a little bit of attention to your color application, and even then, it can be salvaged. So I will warn you while we're doing this that today my allergies are acting up, which is weird because it's kind of like a rainy day here. But anyway, my nose will not stop running. I am doing my level best not to sniffle in your ear, but I may. If that bothers you, feel free to mute the video. You're not going to hurt my feelings any. So here, this is kind of like the cheater's way to get a lot of ink on your paper. We're going to introduce the water in just a little bit, but in order to get the whole thing covered, and I like a brighter color, like more saturation, so I like to put them down first with an ink blending brush. You don't have to. You absolutely can wet it and then just add your colors if you're using regular watercolors. But if you're using a dye ink or just like Distress ink or Distress oxides that activate with water, you can do this first. So here I'm kind of paying a little bit of attention to the colors that will work nicely together. Yellows, oranges, pinks, those all work, really well. Bringing in the blue next to the yellow is going to give me a green. Bringing in the blue next to the pink is going to give me a purple. But you may also notice that I did the blue kind of right by the orange, and those are complementary colors. You just kind of have to feel out whatever you're using if you know that they'll work together or not. And I know for the most part that my Distress ink colors that I like, my go-to colors, do work well. If you find that it is getting too muddy for your liking, just pare down the amount of colors that you use. Even if you just use the primaries, like a pink, yellow, blue, or a red, yellow, blue, or pink, yellow, whatever, the peacock feathers, teal. As long as you're in that same wheelhouse, you can get multiple other colors and it'll have less of a chance of getting muddy. So here now I've sprayed it down with water and you can see how much more intense those colors got. And now I'm just going to use my glass mat as a palette. You could use any non-porous surface. I think, who was it? Brandon. he's so talented. Brandon Schwartz, if you have not seen any of his cards, he's really come quite a long way, and they're beautiful to look at. I would recommend, checking him out. Plus, he's a super nice guy. But anyway, I just wet the paper down and then pick up a little bit of color and just kind of like drop it in there to make it just a little bit more intense. But it's also going to help it to have that watercolored look, as if we spent all of this time doing the watercolor and, mixing the colors and all of that, when we didn't. We just, used the little cheater method with the ink blending brushes. And then I'm going to also, you don't have to do this, but I do enjoy a little splatter where some of my colors kind of, end up in other colors. And I think they look really nice together that way. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going through, adding the color, and then doing a couple of little splatters. Super, super easy. This technique in particular kind of helps me to not think. Because it's all the same. The result is very pretty, but it's almost like doing like a Zentangle or something. But I'm actually, making the card, and I don't have to think a lot about it, and the results are still really pretty. So I still feel accomplished after I've made it, and that is also important to me, to feel like my creative session has been successful. But yeah, so anyway, so once we get all of these on here, then you're going to either want to dry it down, or you want to wait until it is dry. If you love the shimmers, you could also put in some perfect pearls in here, but you don't have to. I spattered on some clean water, and then that was me just blotting it up. And this is the background. You can totally leave it like this and it will be very pretty, but you know me, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just not. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to color all of these flowers, but I'm not going to take the time to figure out color combinations and pull out a bunch of markers. I prefer the cool grays, but you can use warm grays. You can use toners or neutrals. You can use whatever you have. Or if you're really feeling like, hey, I want to, sit down and have a really awesome coloring session, you absolutely can color them the same color that they are. Like in this one that I'm doing right now is in the blue greens. You could absolutely do a blue green and a pink combination and a violet and a yellow and all of those things. But I am very stressed out lately. And so I just want something that I don't have to think about, that I can just sit down, let my mind wander. But I find myself having a lot of conversations with God lately during those times, and that works for me. So the rules don't change just because we're not using color of the rainbow. Any point where 2 points meet, or any point where one object lays on top of the other, is where you want to add your shadows. And when you're coloring things white, which is what we're usually doing with gray markers, right? We leave the white of the paper to be our highlight color. We're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to add the C5 for the shadows, go right over to the C5 and extend it out slightly with the C3, and then go over the C5 and the C3 with the C1 and slightly extend that out. But we're not going to completely cover up the color of the watercolor. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us a ton of dimension in our florals without us having, again, to have a bunch of different markers. So this might be a technique for me, I'm telling you, I use it because I'm overly stressed and I just don't want to have to think about it. But if you're a person who doesn't have a lot of markers, this is also a great technique that you can use with just a couple of markers that you have on hand. If you happen to have a color combination of just blue markers, then do a monochromatic look. Do a blue watercolor in the background, or do something that's analogous. You could, if you only had blue markers, you could do purples next to it on the color wheel, or pink would work, yellow would work. Great. Blue is a neutral. Let's not pick blue. Let's do another one. Let's do red. Blue is my boyfriend, and I feel like he goes with everything. So red, you could do an orange background, a yellow background, a pink background, a blue background, or purple background. And all of those are going to work. So is yellow. But that way, if you just have a handful of markers, you can still do this and pull off something really very, very pretty that you could be very happy with. So while we do this, I did want to talk to you guys just a little bit about story time. So you guys know, obviously, I have a lot of things going on. And so because of that, I've been making some changes. And I think a lot of changes are happening in the industry just because of our economy and those types of things. So as you guys know, that I do illustrate or have illustrated for a handful of companies, and sometimes it's a one-off, and sometimes, it's much more consistent. So today I spent time updating on my website. I have an illustrations page. I didn't do it for all the companies, but I did do it for Picket Fence. So if you have wanted a illustration of mine that came out with Picket Fence Studios, I would encourage you to pick it up, because once they're gone, they're gone. I also went through and made sure to link to like the bigger stores that I know of. I know that they have a lot of wholesalers, so you might be able to find it somewhere else with a Google search, but all of them are still in stock at Simon Says Stamp and scrapbook.com. There are some that are hit and miss. Like there's a handful that are sold out. Graceful Magnolias is gone. That one's out from the Picket Fence Studios website, but it's still available on the other two. So anyway, here, see, now remember I was telling you that you could do colors. I'm going to go in and do the leaves green, and I'm going to use the same yellow green for all of them. And it's just going to make it like when I color over the green or the blue or the yellow, it's just going to be a little bit more vivid. And when I color over the pinks and the purples, just be a little bit more desaturated. But it will give you a good example of using a color versus just using a gray. So, there's also some other things like so anyway, I'll link that below. I'm also putting together I'm in the middle of it. So I don't know if I'll have it up by the time this video goes live or not, but once I'm done with it, I'll make sure to share a link of a post that just has like kind of all of those sets and the videos that go with them in case you do pick them up and you're looking for inspiration. That way they'll be there. I could also do a playlist on my YouTube. I guess I never thought about that. So, in like having conversations, I was talking to a friend who is very well known in the industry, and she's doing a lot of really wonderful, great things. And like I love this so much. I'm gonna have to save this story time for another time because it's too long. To tell both of them, it's too long. So here I did the full background, and then I did do some extra ones in the same way. Now, remember I told you there's no dies for this, so I am going to fussy cut my flowers out, but you can still make these cards work without fussy cutting them, or if you have like a brother scan and cut, that'll totally work as well. So I picked some arches out, and I'm going to cut out my pattern paper with the arches, and one of my cards is going to be the background, and one of my cards is going to be the arch that gets cut out of the middle. For the fussy cutting, I do like to trim mine down into smaller pieces. I do find that it's easier to fussy cut them out that way because then there's not as much pulling on the paper. You may have noticed that there's something on the other side of this watercolor cardstock, and that is because I am too cheap to waste a piece of paper for a project that I didn't end up using. So with that said, I am using Spellbinder's 4-inch detail scissors. I really like these. Holding the fussy cut piece in my left hand, holding the scissors in my right hand because I am right hand dominant, and then I am turning the paper, not the scissors, and that's going to help give me a smoother edge. And then if you have stamped yours in black like I have, you can use a non-alcohol marker, so like a water-based marker. I use the Memento Tuxedo Black to color the edges to help them look just a little bit more polished. But anyway, this person that I was talking to, she had asked me while we were on the phone and we were kind of like brainstorming some things. She was like, do you have a membership on your YouTube? And I was like, no, I don't, because I don't even know what to offer people. Like, I don't even know what to offer you. So first, let me preface it with saying, like, I will never not offer free content on my YouTube. So don't be afraid of that. But for those people who do want something that is extra, one of the things that, because she does a lot of lives, and I told you that, which speaking of lives, like Honeybee, that's one of the changes that I'm making, because doing the lives with them and stuff is going to help get me much more comfortable. And somebody had asked in the comment, I saw it. I always read all of your comments, but I don't always have a chance to reply. Somebody had said, will you only be using Honeybee products now? And no, Honeybee is a company that supports the entire industry. One of the reasons why I love them, and I would never work for a company that did not allow me to support the industry as a whole. I'm not about exclusivity. So no, that's not an issue, but it does mean that I'll probably have more content containing their stuff, because now that's like, it's a job I've picked up, and I'm thrilled about it. And I can't wait to see you guys on Wednesday at 1. But anywho, so here, what I'm doing is, you don't have to do this part. You can just use the pieces as they are. But the contrast creates a lot of drama, and it really helps those colors pop, coloring in the background black. So I am using just the 100 Copic marker, and I'm just going around all of the coloring and filling that in. This may seem boring or monotonous to other people, and I get that, but when I am super stressed out and I want to create without thinking, outlining the images and then filling in that negative space is really soothing for me. Like, it just allows me to get lost in what I'm doing, and it doesn't require a lot of skill. And honestly, that's kind of what I need right now. So I did the background on both of them. You could absolutely do this before you die cut them. I just wanted you to see the pieces that were, while they were separated. That, see, like this one up here on the right where we haven't filled it in black. That arch is still just as pretty without filling in the black. I think it's a little bit more dramatic once you fill in the black, but everybody has different tastes. I also, for one of the sentiments, I stamped it in white and heat embossed it with some white detail embossing powder. And for the other one, I ended up just stamping in black on white. Again, whatever way it works for your design. Also, I chose arches, but you could choose any, you could do a circle or a hexagon or a diamond. All of those shapes would work really well to kind of take that piece out of the middle and end up with 2 cards. So anyway, one of the things she had suggested was doing the membership. And then when I was like, girl, I don't even know what to offer people, she actually had a what I think is a really good idea. And so I wanted to bring it to you guys and see what you think. So one of the things that she said we could do, which I think would be really fun, would be, you guys know that I, illustrate, obviously, is we could do like a digital image. So I would draw something specifically for this class. And that level of membership would include us getting together like twice a month to color those images. And if you guys wanted to be able to chat in real time, we could do a Zoom meeting so that we could see each other, or we could do it as a private on YouTube so that we could just chat in the comments. Either one would be fine. So if you think you're interested in something like that, let me know. If there's something else you would like, you're like, hey, I'd love to do memberships, but I would be looking for XYZ. I'm open to that also. I love your guys' feedback. And if you're like, hey, well, memberships just is not something I'm interested in, tell me that too. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Because I do think that might be something that would be a little bit more manageable for me right now with all the things that I have going on. So here I die cut out that black with a slightly smaller arch, and I glued my flowers to the negative of the pattern paper. And now I'm going to pop up this whole thing right over this sentiment. And it changes the shape of the arch because we have those florals there. But I think it's nice. It kind of like breaks it up a little bit. So, yeah, so those are some of the things that I've been thinking about. Also, like just, you guys see it, there's more creators who are doing, lives versus, doing what I do, which is more edited content. If that's something you're interested, let me know that as well. I will never completely get rid of my edited content, because I enjoy being able to put those things out there, and then you can come back and watch them whenever. Yes, I know the lives are the same way, but sometimes those are a little bit longer or harder to edit. So anyway, I'm just really looking for your feedback. You guys know, if you have subscribed to my channel for a while, that I enjoy that we kind of have a back and forth relationship in which we can talk to one another. Here, I decided I did not like where I placed that, and I'm going to change it. So, what else? There was something else that I was going to discuss with you. And, oh, I know. If you are picking up any of those sets, and usually, like, scrapbook.com does have sales anyway, but this particular week they have 12% off. So not only are they always a little bit cheaper on scrapbook.com, but you can get an additional 12% off any of those. And they always have free gifts. So the free gift with a $55 purchase is a magic mat, limited edition pink. With $45 spent, you get the Tim Holtz brushstroke flowers die set. With $30 purchase, you get a scrapbook.com exclusive cupcake die set. And then I think there's also some Sizzix folders or a deal on a crocodile. Anyway, they always have really great sales. But I know this week in particular, and my stamps are included in that, is that 12%. So if you are going to pick them up, you might as well get them at the deepest discount. Some of them are also on sale over at the Picket Fence Studios. So here, now everything is together. Both of them are kind of popped up on foam just to add a little bit of extra interest. I am going in and adding some clear glitter to them because I used inks that do react with water. You need to be careful about how much scrubbing you do or where you spread the color, because sometimes you can't pick it back up. I added some white gel pen accents to the center of the flowers, and then the black felt, I don't know, it felt like it needed something. So I decided that I was going to go in with this white gel pen and just do like a couple of little dots like around the flowers, and I think that added so much to it. And it was really pretty effortless. And again, not something I had to think about. So for the rhinestones, these are from Picket Fence as well. And which ones are they? These are the Starry Skies. They look like a rainbow or like iridescent. They're really good kind of neutral ones. And so I just put those on to accent my sentiments. And I'm pretty sure that was the last thing that I did to finish off the cards. So, of course, please leave me your feedback. I would love that. Once I get that blog post up, I will add it to the description. If you are over on my blog and have signed up for the Don't Miss a Thing, you'll get the blog post when it gets published anyway. So thank you guys so much for spending your time with me. I always appreciate you, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.